My parents secretly sold the house I paid off, then got mad when I reported them for fraud. I spent 10 years working overtime to pay off a mortgage that wasn't even in my name. The house was under my parents' names because when I bought it at 24, my credit was garbage and theirs was decent. They agreed to sign for me with the full understanding that I'd make all the payments, do all the upkeep, pay all the taxes. I did. Every month, on time, no exceptions. I lived there alone. They never contributed a cent. It was my house in every way but legal paperwork. They used to call me the responsible one. My younger brother Kyle burned through 3 cars, 2 failed businesses, and got evicted twice. They bailed him out every time. Me, I handled everything on my own. I never asked for help. I thought that meant something. Apparently not. 3 months after I made the last payment, I came home from a weekend trip to find a for sale sign pulled out of the yard and a clean swept porch. Inside, furniture was moved. My documents were gone. My backup hard drives, gone. Even my clothes looked disturbed, like someone had packed them and unpacked them. I called my mom. She answered with a weirdly chipper, "Hey, sweetie," like she hadn't just committed a felony. I asked what the hell was going on. Her voice dropped. "We needed to make a family decision. You've always been so independent. We assumed you'd understand." The house was sold. Sold, without warning, without permission, without a text. They told the buyers it was a quick cash deal, closed in under 30 days. They pocketed the money. My father said it was technically their asset, that since it was in their name, they had every right, that I shouldn't act like a victim since I got to live there rent-free for 10 years. Rent-free. I paid the entire mortgage, property tax, insurance, repairs, everything. I installed the roof, I fixed the plumbing, I redid the floors alone. And now, apparently, I was ungrateful. They handed me a check for $5,000 like that would somehow settle it. Just to help you get back on your feet. Like I was a college student moving out of my dorm, not a 34-year-old who'd just lost the only home I'd ever owned. I didn't take the money. I stayed in a motel that night. Raged alone. Didn't sleep. The next morning, I started collecting everything. Every bank statement, email, payment record, photo of home improvements, everything. I made copies, I created folders, I backed it all up 3 times, and I called a lawyer. The look on their faces when they realized I wasn't going to roll over would have been satisfying if I wasn't so disgusted. They tried guilt first. How could you take legal action against your own parents? Then came deflection. You're being dramatic. And finally, threats. If you make this public, you'll regret it. Too late. The lawyer didn't even blink when I told him. He said this wasn't the first time he'd seen something like this. Parents screwing over their adult kids the second there was money involved. We started digging. The sale documents showed my parents signed everything alone. No mention of me, no disclosure about me living there, no indication that I had any financial stake. The buyers didn't even know someone had been living there until I showed up during their move-in and scared the hell out of them. I apologized. They were confused, not hostile. Turns out they thought it was some kind of vacation property the sellers didn't use anymore. Cash deal, under market price, no inspections. The kind of sale that smells wrong but closes fast. The lawyer asked me if I ever had anything in writing. I had emails, a few texts, photos, before and afters of every renovation, bank statements showing mortgage transfers from my account for 10 years, receipts, Home Depot orders, insurance correspondence with me listed as the point of contact. All of it, but no deed, no formal ownership transfer, nothing airtight. Didn't matter. He filed for civil fraud, unjust enrichment, and intentional misrepresentation. We also sent a cease and desist to my parents regarding any further use of my name, image, or belongings. Because yes, they were posting online trying to get ahead of the story, painting me as unstable and lashing out after a family disagreement. Family disagreement? They stole my fubbing house. Then it got worse. My brother Kyle messaged me. No apology. No acknowledgement of what happened. Just one line. You seriously gonna ruin our parents' lives over a house? The gaslighting wasn't subtle. He knew exactly what they'd done. Later, I found out he was the one who connected them with the buyers. He got a cut. The betrayal wasn't an accident. It was planned. Coordinated. He'd been in my house while I was away, packing things. That's why my hard drives were missing. That's why some of my tools were gone. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought I'd move on. He underestimated how far I'd go once I had nothing left to lose. We requested the court freeze a portion of the sale proceeds while the case was ongoing. everything. My lawyer said best case, I'd recover most of the money. Worst case, they'd be forced to admit what they did in front of a judge, on record, with press if it came to that. My parents didn't respond well. My mom called me sobbing, left a voicemail about how families aren't supposed to take each other to court. My dad followed it up with a 3-minute rant about how I was being manipulated by outsiders and ruining my mother's health. They were still trying to make me feel like I was the problem. I blocked them both. Then I called the buyers again, told them everything, offered to send documentation proving I'd lived there and paid for it, not to scare them, just to explain why this was going to get messy. I didn't want them caught in crossfire. To my surprise, they were sympathetic. They said if they had known, they never would have bought it. But it was too late. The house was theirs now, and I had nothing, except the truth, the evidence, and a lawyer who didn't flinch. The court date hit faster than I expected. My parents tried every trick to delay it, claimed medical issues, switched lawyers twice, even tried to reach out through mutual family, but it didn't work. I showed up, so did they. Kyle didn't. In court, their lawyer painted me as a bitter child, lashing out because I'd never formally secured legal ownership. That's what it came down to. Fine print. Never mind the decade of payments, the improvements, the paper trail. They leaned on technicalities like it was a shield. My lawyer ripped through it. He brought bank records. He showed a full mortgage history from my account, payments made to their lender monthly without fail. He showed texts where my mother thanked me for handling the roof and covering the taxes this year again. He showed receipts for every major repair, HVAC, plumbing, flooring, electrical, all signed by me, all paid by me. And then he dropped the message from Kyle. You seriously gonna ruin our parents' lives over a house? The judge asked why I wasn't listed on the deed if this was the understanding. I told the truth. I trusted them. I believed my parents wouldn't screw me over, that I thought blood meant something. He didn't look impressed. Judgment wasn't instant. It took a week, but when it came, it landed. I won. Not everything, but enough. The court ruled in my favor on unjust enrichment and ordered a partial repayment from the proceeds of the home sale. They were forced to give me back a 6-figure amount, not the full market value, not the full damage, but enough to start over. The judge also criticized them heavily for their behavior, called their actions deceptive, public record. It stung them. Not as much as it stung me, but enough. A few days after the judgment, my mom showed up outside the office where I worked. She sat in the lobby holding a photo album. Security called me. I didn't go down. Then Kyle emailed me. One sentence. Hope the money was worth losing your family. No, Kyle. Losing them was the cost of keeping my self-respect. I used the money to move across the country. Different city, different job, rented a place under my name with no strings. Bought my own tools again. Started small. I didn't speak to my parents again. I didn't need closure. They knew what they did. And now, so did the court. I didn't burn their house down. I didn't scream at them in public. I didn't post their names online. I just let the paperwork do the damage. No reunion. No healing. Just distance. Sometimes the only way to win is to walk away while they're still standing there trying to justify the knife in your back. Now we move on to the next story. Story 2. My brother got my parents to co-sign a loan, then disappeared. Now they expect me to pay it off. It started with a voicemail from my dad. Hey kiddo, your brother's in a bit of a tight spot. Nothing crazy. Just need some help getting a small business loan approved. They just need someone responsible to co-sign. Call us. I didn't call. I already knew how this worked. I've been the cleanup crew my whole life. My brother Jake blows something up, my parents rush in to rescue him, and when they can't fix it themselves, they turn to me. The stable one, the adult. I thought that ignoring it would be enough. 2 weeks later, I found out my parents co-signed the loan themselves. They didn't tell me. I heard it from a friend who works at the bank. She sent me a text. Is your family opening a gym together? Saw some familiar names on a business loan. A gym! Jake never stuck with anything for more than 6 months. He once opened a car detailing business that consisted of him borrowing my vacuum, posting once on Facebook, and then quitting when he didn't get clients fast enough. A gym was a joke. I asked my mom what was going on. She said Jake had really matured, and that the bank only approved the loan because she and Dad signed off. She said it with pride, like it was proof of trust. I asked what collateral they used. She went quiet. They used the house. The one they live in. The one they've owned since before I was born. Paid off. Safe. And now tied to Jake's imaginary gym. I wanted to scream. Instead, I told her flat out, don't expect me to bail him out when this blows up. She said, we're not asking for that. We believe in him. They believed in him for 2.5 months. That's how long it took for him to vanish. Phone off, socials deleted, lease unpaid, equipment unpaid, loan untouched. He didn't even start building the gym. He took the loan payout and disappeared. I got the next call at 6:17 a.m. My dad's voice was cracked and low. Can you come over? I came. They were sitting at the table like someone had died. Technically, someone had the fantasy version of their son. They slid a letter across the table, a notice of default. The bank had tried to reach Jake, no response. Now they were coming after the co-signers. The amount? $112,000. My mom said, we might lose the house. I said nothing. My dad said, we were thinking maybe you could take over the loan. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud because it was so insane I didn't know what else to do. Then I saw they were serious. My mom started crying. My dad said, we wouldn't ask if we had another option. I said, you did, not signing. He said, you said no. We didn't want to pressure you. Right. So instead, they gambled the house and came back to me anyway. Not for advice, not for help finding Jake, but to beg me to absorb the problem. Again, I walked out. My phone rang 5 times before I got home. I didn't answer. They weren't victims. They were accomplices. And I was done being their plan B. I spent the next few days digging. Not because I wanted to help, I didn't, but because I wanted to understand how deep the lie went. You don't just wake up and take out a 6-figure loan for your chronically unreliable son unless something pushed you, or unless you were in on it. Turns out it was the second one. Jake had applied for the loan 6 months before they told me anything. He didn't just need a co-signer. He needed the appearance of legitimacy. My parents were the credibility. Their house was the leverage. And I was the backup plan if he bailed. He made one payment on the loan. One. He never signed a lease for the gym space. He faked it. Found a friend who owned a warehouse and staged a few photos. Used them in the application. My dad drove him to the shoot. My mom helped him write the business plan. She didn't even hide it. When I confronted her, she said he needed guidance. We wanted to help him succeed. I asked, so you helped him lie? She said he believed in it. We believed in him. No remorse. Just excuses layered with desperation. I went to the bank myself and requested copies of the loan paperwork. They were hesitant at first, but I had the right legal language and enough supporting documents to get a look. And there it was. Jake listed himself as sole owner and operator. Estimated revenue, $300,000 first year. Zero experience. Fake vendor quotes. Overstated equipment costs. Flimsy projected growth. But it was enough, because the bank had collateral, and now the bank wanted its money. They gave my parents 60 days before foreclosure proceedings would start. My parents called a family meeting, a phrase I hadn't heard since we were teenagers. This time, it wasn't about chores or school or birthday dinners. It was about guilt. They told me Jake was in trouble, possibly in danger, and that I needed to be the bigger person, that families stick together, that if we lose the house, we'll have nowhere to go. I asked what Jake said when they told him that. They went quiet. They hadn't spoken to him since he left. I asked if they filed a police report. They hadn't. They weren't looking for him. They were hoping I'd cave first. I didn't. I made it clear, if the house goes, it's not because of me. It's because they trusted the one person who'd failed them over and over and ignored the one person who never had. They didn't like that answer. My dad said I was cold. My mom called me heartless, said I was acting like a stranger, like I was enjoying their pain. I wasn't, but I wasn't owning it either. Not this time. I contacted a lawyer again, this time for myself. I wanted it documented. Every call, every demand, every attempt to pressure me. I wasn't going down with this ship. They built it. Let them sink in it. 3 weeks before the foreclosure deadline, my parents showed up at my apartment, unannounced. I didn't open the door. They waited in the hallway for half an hour. I could hear them whispering, then raising their voices, then finally walking away. An hour later, I got a message from my aunt. Whatever's going on, just fix it. They're your parents. I didn't respond, because this wasn't whatever. This wasn't a squabble over dinner plans or holidays or something fixable. This was betrayal with paperwork. They gave everything to Jake again, and now they wanted me to clean up again. Only this time, I had boundaries. I got a call from a private number 2 days later. It was Jake. No apology, no explanation, just, they told me you were being a bitch about this. I almost laughed. He sounded annoyed, like I'd caused him trouble, like I'd interrupted some vacation he was on. I asked where he was. He hung up. I forwarded the number to my lawyer and filed a fraud report with the local police. I included screenshots, documents, voicemails, everything. I didn't care that he was my brother. I cared that he used my parents' desperation and dragged me into it. That week, my parents finally listed the house. Fast, cash sale, under market. No mention of why. I found the listing online by accident. It stung more than I thought it would. That was the house I grew up in. The kitchen I ate breakfast in. The walls I painted during high school. Gone. They sold it for enough to cover the loan. They moved into a tiny rental apartment across town. No yard. 1 bedroom. I didn't go see it. Then the texts came in waves. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. We were just trying to help Jake. You're not welcome here anymore. There was nothing left to be welcome to. I changed my number. I blocked them everywhere. I told my work to ignore any calls asking for me by name unless they were from a known contact. I wasn't taking chances. It's been 9 months. Jake never resurfaced. My parents never apologized. The rest of the family split. Some think I did the right thing. Others whisper about how I abandoned the people who raised me. Let them whisper. I sleep fine. I live in a place with no one else's name on the lease, no one else's fingerprints on my future. no one else's debt hanging over me like a trap. Sometimes doing the right thing means burning the bridge and walking away from the smoke without turning back.